our presentation. Just let me let in a couple more people as we go. Over to you, Millie.
Oh, so if any of you don't know me, I'm Millie and I'm one of the 2 staff members that works on the camp. So yeah, just to go through some basics about Camp 100 in case you don't already know them first. The dates are the 27th of July to the 6th of August. And there's also the option to come for the first 3 days or the first 7 days if your group or people in your group aren't able to do the whole thing. It's at Kelmarsh Hall in the East Midlands, the same site as Common Ground for any of you that were there. And there'll be coaches from a nearby station. We're still working out what that will be. But that will only be on the first and last days. There's also a bus that goes pretty much all the way to site from Market Harbour Station. So for anyone who's doing the shorter options there, it is quite easy to get to site on public transport. We're expecting, I want to say now 1,500 to 2,000 to be a bit more optimistic. And that will be people from Woodcraft and organisations all over the world, our friends from IFM mainly, but also some other groups that we have links with. And the camp will be £265 per person for groups coming from the UK or Western Europe. There's different prices for people coming from further afield. The theme is the next 100 years because this is basically our centenary celebration camp. So the layout, it's going to be pretty similar to Common Ground. We don't have a map yet, but this is a map from Common Ground. So there'll be some slight differences. But yeah, on this map, a tent is a village, which will be about 90 people, made up of at least one UK group and at least one international group in most cases. That may or may not be the case this time. In their villages, people will eat, sleep, and help with cooking, washing up, and do some activities. Then we have towns, which is kind of like each colour on the map represents a town, and that's 3 to 5 villages. On the map, there's 5 towns, but we think for Camp 100, we're just going to have 3 or 4, depending on numbers. And the difference this time is each town is going to have a library. So last time they had a town marquee, but they weren't super utilised in the best way, we thought. And so this time they're going to have a library, which is obviously also going to be a marquee. And we'll have the news and things like that, but there'll also be some resources and it'll be a space for creating your own events and holding activities. And then the central area in the middle is where the main camp program will be. So all the stuff that's organised centrally. But yeah, as I mentioned, we'll also support volunteers to run programming in towns and villages.
Okay, I'm Saren. I'm one of the coordinators of Camp 100, and I'll talk a little bit about programme. So the way that programme will run at camp is basically it will alternate between central days and village days. And on a central day, most of your programme will happen within the centres in the central area, and that people can drop in at different times and go to like workshops, games, things like that. And then on village days, the program is more run by a village or a town, and there'll be support for that by a new role that we have called a town librarian. So those will be people in the libraries that will have loads of resources. They might have games. They might have like ideas of like craft supplies, things like that, to help towns and villages plan program for those days. We'll also have a camp-wide wide game that will happen on village days in each town. So it will probably be 3 or 4 days, 1 per town. And that'll be like a big simulation game that runs throughout the camp, and it will follow on from each town. So it will build up a sort of big storyline from everyone, basically. And yeah, and then the last image is youth participation. So there'll also be something called campaigns, which will be a way that all of the young people at the camp can come up with ideas about what they want to see improve it and what they will actually want to improve on camp, and they can make happen. And there'll also be camp democracy as well, where on the camp. Yeah, I think the next slide has more detail on centres. Yeah, so there are 14 centres. I'll quickly go through them. So there's STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and maths. There's solidarity, which is more political, more around like class issues and that sort of thing. Messed up, which is, I can never quite remember what it stands for, but it's about like mental health, sexual health, and like well-being around that. There's an escape room centre, trade union, bushcraft, peace and conflict, media, which I think are all a bit more self-explanatory, ecology, underground printing press. So that will have like a physical printing press that people can take things to and like make things with. Arts and craft, radio, we'll have 12 and under, and a cinema centre. And yeah, so a lot of the feedback from Common Ground and that people wanted to see differently at Camp 100 was more available for those under 12 to get involved with. So there will have a specific centre with loads going on throughout the week. And we're also changing main stage programme slightly. So it'll start much earlier in the day. So it'll start from afternoon, and that'll be more geared towards young people, so that they're not, if Elfins are going to bed earlier, they're not missing out on main stage programme. They still get to go to stuff. And hopefully that'll make it a bit easier for lots of like Elfin leaders or, you know, parents of young children, that sort of thing. And again, yeah, we have youth participation. So we have the campaigns and camp democracy, so that, you know, young people feel like they're having more of a say on camp and that they're seeing their changes. And in the evenings, so the way that an evening would usually work is everyone has dinner in there. So everyone will eat in their villages. And then everyone will go to the news, which will happen in a town marquee, and watch the news of that day. One of the ideas that we've got for the first night of the news is a best of the news. So it will be a collection of everyone's like favorite news items from past camps. So if any of you have specific, you know, items of news that you remember seeing at a camp, get in touch with what it is so that we can try and get it in there. There'll be, so on central days, there'll be main stage program through the evening. So that'll be lots of like live music. It could be different like performances and acts. And then on village days, might have some shared campfires. So, and as another way to meet people in different villages and towns, it would be quite nice to, you know, have some joint campfires. And then there'll also be space. So we have the town marquee. So that's a space for people to, you know, bring their own program on those village nights if they want to share things. And we have like any delegation can come and bring something to share and run program in those spaces. I think, yeah, pass on to food.
Thanks so much, Seren. I'll just talk us through the next part of the presentation. For those who don't know, I'm Lauren, and I am the other staff member with Millie working on Camp 100. So what is food going to look like at Camp 100? Hopefully there's going to be a lot of it. We know already people are working with suppliers to try and make sure that we have everything that we need. Our menu is going to be looking as sustainable as possible. Perhaps less meat than some people are used to, but camp is an amazing time to try some new things, get some new recipes under your belt, and try out some foods that you might not have tried before, or different combinations you haven't tried before. Our food team are working really hard to make sure that all diets will be catered for within the menu, so having alternatives for people who have free-from diets or have specific allergies. At camp, we'll provide you, or we'll provide your village with the ingredients to make breakfast, lunch, dinner, have snacks, and also squash, tea, coffee are provided as well. So that will all be distributed out of the town pantries, which will be happening near to the town libraries, so we can make sure that everybody is distributed the right food each day, and they'll have an amazing handbook to use to know how to prepare each meal, what goes into it, what alternatives we can make for people with specific requirements, and how we can jazz things up to make them have some of your own camp traditions as well, because we know that everybody who camps with Woodcraft folk sometimes does things slightly differently. So bringing us on to what makes this camp so special. So as Millie said at the beginning, it's going to be our centenary year. Woodcraft folk's going to be 100 years old, which is really exciting. And so, as it says here, what better way to celebrate than having a camp with all of our friends from across the country and across the world. This camp, kind of building on common ground in 2022, it's going to have a focus on volunteer wellbeing. So having a designated team and space for volunteers to go to when they're feeling like they need a bit of a break, when they feel like they want to pass on to somebody else. We might have some people who are happy to kind of swap into different roles to help everybody not burn out whilst we're on camp for such a long period of time. We are going to be joined by our international friends, which again is another thing that makes this camp so exciting. And there's already lots of international groups interested in coming to camp from Europe and beyond. And we're starting to look at how we can kind of reinforce some of the links with international groups that are already there within our movement, and also making some new international links as well. We're looking for groups who can host different international delegations and potentially help with fundraising as well. So if you're interested in that, you can get in touch with us at info@camp100.org.uk to find out a little bit more and plan together how we can welcome as many international friends as possible. I'm going to pass over to Jack to go through.
Hello, Jack. I'm the other volunteer coordinator of Camp 100 with Seren, and I'm going to talk about some volunteers that we're looking for. So if there's anybody you know, whether that's you or somebody in your district or just somebody who you think in Woodcraft would be up for one of these roles, we're looking for town librarians. We've talked a little bit about them already. People who are happy and confident sharing program ideas, linking people up in villages who might want to work together. That's largely what that role would include. People who want to help in food pantries. So that's moving ridiculous quantities of food around, making sure that villagers are getting the right amounts, making sure that we're able to work out solutions if an order is short and they can find the things that they need so that villages, it's a really exciting thing to be involved in because you can see things moving on a scale that you never really get to see at a Woodcraft camp, and that's quite fun. A first aid coordinator, ideally somebody with relevant either professional or experience who can help coordinate first aid across the camp. Special diets coordinator, who would sit within the food team to help people with more complicated dietary requirements and villages with people with those requirements adapt the menus in ways beyond ones that might be easier or more automatic to do. And that would involve having lots of conversations with those different people who might have those needs, finding out what are the things that they can eat, working out what adaptations are needed, and supporting villagers to do those. People for the international team, making links with and communicating with different organizations around the world, supporting with visas, supporting with fundraising applications, travel, lots of different things. Lots of stewards who will help keep us safe and make sure I'll be a point of call and information as you're going around the camp. It's a really nice way to get to know new people, have a chat with them as you're walking around, and get to experience lots of different bits of the camp and see lots of bits of the camp. It's also a role that doesn't necessarily need huge amounts of prior experience. There's a great role for if you've got a DF group or others who might want to do that. It doesn't require lots of work in advance of the camp, unlike some of the others. There's lots of other roles have a look on the Get Involved section of the Camp 100 website. Every time I look at it, some new things been added to make it easier to search, to filter, to find out about the different roles you can do. So yes, lots of roles and ways to get involved. There are loads more ways than that, of course, as well. So if you've got an idea that you think would be great, get in touch, tell us it. There is lots of information on our website, as I've been saying. There's an FAQ section with lots of questions that we've imagined that people might have. If you have other questions than that, you can email us at info@camp100.org.uk. Also, if you just have an idea or you want to say, hello, I'm really excited about Camp 100 and this is the thing that's been happening in my district about it, and we'll be pleased to know that, because it's always useful for us to know what's going on in districts and how things are going towards Camp 100. We've sent out, which hopefully lots of you received or somebody in your district received, an info pack recently, which has lots of that information in a physical form, because for some people it's definitely a more approachable way to access some of that information. There's an activity pack with lots of sessions that can be run in group nights to get our groups and young people excited and engaged in Camp 100. There's 100 hundreds. I had a session with my Elfins recently where we went through all of the 100 hundreds and we did a kind of vague, how much do we want to do this one? How much do we want to do this one? And some of them they were really keen on, and some of them they weren't at all. And some of them half the group was really keen on and the other half wasn't. So that's a good way to have lots and lots of things that you can be doing throughout your group program between now and Camp 100 that can lead into it and build excitement in the district. We are, as a Camp 100 team, planning to call round all of the districts again over the next just over a month before our next physical meeting, and find out how you're doing, if you need any support with booking, what equipment you have, if there are any international groups you're linking up with, any questions, and just to have conversations. I really like talking to lots of people in lots of different districts because it makes the camp feel a lot more real than it does when it's a team bus organising it centrally. And hearing that lots of other people have plans that they're working on as well is always great. Another way to keep up to date with things that are going on is to follow us on various different social media. There are links here on the screen. If you don't already follow us, do that, because you'll see updates of things that are happening, information about the program that's appearing, call outs of volunteers, ways to get involved, activity packs and ideas, sharing things that different groups and districts have done. If you're doing some of the 100 hundreds or the activities, share to those social medias, and we'd love to reshare them and build a kind of sense of excitement in the movement that lots of things are going on towards our 100th birthday. These camps are a ridiculous, impossible thing that we do together, and that's one of the brilliant things about them. Part of Woodcraft's education for social change is that we can organise these things in cooperative, collective ways. And in aid of that, we've set, rather than an early booking deadline for £10 off, which we tended to find groups would ignore or do it later because it wasn't much different, we've decided to talk about a really helpful booking deadline, because when we're organising this camp, bookings are helpful for us, but that's helpful for everyone because we're all organising this camp together in different ways and in different capacities. So we want to reach 1,000 bookings of January 2025. So groups are registering to book on the booking system in the next few weeks, sending out information to your districts to get people starting to book. Maybe you won't get everybody booked from your district at the moment, but you can get all the people who are definitely already thinking they're coming, and that will help us be able to meet dietary requirements and accessibility needs, save staff and volunteer time, give us information we need to plan a great camp for everyone. We have different budget lines depending on the different numbers of people who come. And the earlier we know that we can go to a higher budgetary line, the more we can use that money usefully to put on great program and all sorts of other things that make the camp a wonderful thing. It also helps us put people into villages sooner so that they can have more time to get to know each other, to plan, and to make the villages work really cooperatively and positively. As a kind of incentive to that, and a kind of goal for us all to collectively work towards, if we get those 1,000 people by the 10th of January, each village will get an extra £100 over the course of the camp to spend on extras or treats that they decide that they want to have at camp.
Thanks, Jack. So bookings are now open. You can head over to the Camp 100 website and find quite easily in the top right hand corner, in the drop down menu, how to book. And there's some really helpful booking guidance on there, a booking handbook telling you how you can register and apply to book, how you can put all your details in, how you can add your participants. So even just applying to book gives us a good estimate of numbers and equipment needs and that kind of thing. So hopefully, I think Jack did a really good way of explaining our really helpful booking deadline. So also, what next? Talk to other groups that you'd like to camp with, maybe groups you've had a good experience with before, maybe groups that are nearby to where you are. Try to support everyone in your district to come to camp, including those who haven't necessarily been to an international camp before. If you're a new district or a new group, that might be everybody. Or if you're a long-established group, you might have some new members who want to come along. Check out the activity pack that Jack's already told us about. On the 9th of October, we're hosting a fundraising for Camp 100 webinar. So come along to that to get some fundraising ideas, share what you're already doing, share what we can share what other things you can get up to. Get pre-camp in your diary now. So a weekend where we'll be on site at Kelmarsh, we can have a look around. Hopefully by then we'll have a really firm idea about numbers and be able to say where infrastructure is going to be and have a physical kind of walk around the site. And never hesitate to get in touch with us, info@camp100.org.uk, questions, ideas, support, whatever it is, just to share your excitement, get in touch because we'd love to hear from you. And we're looking forward to seeing everybody at camp. Sorry, Jack.
Another bit on the supporting everybody to come. Reach out to people who have been part of Woodcraft and your district in the past, but who have drifted away for whatever reason, because we'd love to use our 100th birthday as a chance to welcome them back and to get them involved again, whether that is a generation of venturers that have grown up and drifted away slightly who you'd love to come back and get involved, or whether that's somebody who was a leader for years and who has stopped for whatever reason, because it'd be lovely to reconnect with lots of those people and involve them in this celebration of Woodcraft's last 100 years.
Perfect. Thanks, Jack. We did a lot of talking. Now I'm going to just stop the recording. So